The yard at Fort Moore shimmered under harsh Georgia sun. Cadets lined the gravel, boots tight, rifles stacked. A whistle cut the heat, sharp as steel. Rowan Hale stood near the back, plain t-shirt clinging to her shoulders, old pack slung low. She looked like someone who'd wandered in by mistake. Travis Briggs noticed first. His grin widened as he shoved past two cadets. He grabbed her collar, yanking hard. Fabric tore in a clean line down her back. For an instant, silence. Then black ink surfaced, a coiled serpent twisted around a cracked chevron. Colonel Everett Shaw, watching from the perimeter, froze mid-stride, his spine straightened, boots grinding on stone. He lifted his hand in a crisp salute. The yard went still. Every eye locked on Rowan. But she didn't move. She simply adjusted the torn shirt and stepped back in line. Cut to black. Title drops. Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from? And if you believe honor and courage still matter, help keep their legacy alive. Earlier that morning, her truck had rattled onto base. Paint chipped. Tires spattered with mud from back roads. No flags, no stickers, just dust. She killed the engine and slid out with quiet ease. Her boots were scuffed, laces uneven. A single strap kept her pack together. She didn't look like a cadet from polished brochures. She looked like she'd been surviving on the road. Yet her eyes scanned the compound as if measuring distances, marking exits. The mess hall hummed with voices. Forks scraped metal trays. Laughter bounced from wall to wall. Rowan took her food and sat alone at a corner table. Shoulders squared. Kara Pike spotted her. Perfect ponytail, sharp smile, voice pitched for an audience. What is this? Soup kitchen hours, she mocked. Sliding into the seat across, two cadets behind her laughed on cue. Rowan didn't answer. She cut her meatloaf, bite slow, eyes fixed on her plate. When Kara flicked a spoonful of mashed potatoes toward her shirt, the splatter barely drew a blink. Rowan wiped the stain, kept eating. Her silence was heavier than any comeback. Afternoon meant endurance drills, 8 miles over rough ground, full packs strapped tight. Sun hammered the track, dust rising with each stride. Rowan kept her pace steady, breath controlled. The knot on her left boot slipped again, frayed lace dragging across gravel. She dropped to a knee, tied it fast, rose without wasting a second. Briggs slid up beside her, shoulders broad, voice loud, shoes giving up. Hale. Or is it just you? He clipped her arm on purpose. Rowan stumbled, hands scraping dirt, knees sinking in mud. The line erupted in laughter. She stood, palms streaked brown, and kept running. No curse, no glare, just rhythm. Briggs slowed, unsettled by how quickly she reset her stride. Later. Cadets lined up at the equipment shed. Quartermaster Hank Doolin worked the desk, handing out vests and helmets, his face pinched, words sharp. When Rowan stepped forward, he sneered, "What is this? A hobo drive-in? No gear for civilians?" He tossed her a vest 2 sizes too big. The straps dangled, practically useless. Laughter rippled from the line behind her. Someone muttered, "Make a tent out of it." Rowan caught the vest, studied it once, and slung it over her shoulder. Outside, she knotted the straps quick and tight, adjusting until the vest hugged her frame. Precision born of habit. On the range, rifles lay in neat rows. Sergeant counts started. Each cadet had 2 minutes to break down an M4, clean it. Reassemble. Sweat dripped as fingers fumbled pins. Clips hit dirt. Curses flew. Briggs clocked in at 1 minute 42, parts rattling but intact. Kara barely scraped under 2 minutes, hands trembling. Rowan stepped forward. No rush, no hesitation. Pin out, bolt freed, components aligned in a perfect grid. Movement smooth, like water flowing. 49 seconds flat, not a single part out of order. The timer buzzed. Sergeant's brow furrowed. "Hale, where'd you learn that?" She wiped her palms on her pants, eyes on the ground. "Practice." The word carried no emphasis. The yard whispered. Unsettled. Next came live fire. Targets sat at 425 meters, wind tugging faint from the right. Cadets fidgeted with scopes, calculating holds. Kara missed 2. Curse caught in her throat. Briggs hit 4, his grin forced. Rowan lay prone, cheek pressed firm to stock. She fired 5 times, steady rhythm, no adjustments, each shot thudded center. Bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. The range officer checked her rifle, frowned. The sight alignment was off. She had compensated on instinct, without a word. A cadet down the line whispered, "That's Spec Ops steady." Briggs scoffed, but his jaw tightened. Break ended, chatter buzzing. Lila Trent slipped a folded map into Rowan's hand. "Quick, discreet. Use mine," she whispered. Rowan tucked it away without a glance. No thanks, no smile, just a nod. The yard shifted, subtle. Eyes tracked Rowan longer now. Voices dropped when she passed. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but refused to show it. Evening settled over Fort Moore. Bunk lights flickered. Rowan sat alone, laces in her fingers, tying them slow, precise. Her hands bore faint scratches from gravel, but her breathing stayed calm. From the next cot, Briggs muttered, "Better sleep tight. Tomorrow's shooting test. Don't choke." He walked off, towel slung over his shoulder. Rowan lay back on her bunk, eyes fixed on the ceiling, her breath even, her silence unbroken. Somewhere outside, boots crunched gravel. Colonel Shaw still pacing the yard, replaying what he'd seen. The next morning began with another range session. Sun cut across the berm, rifles clattering as cadets lined up. Sergeant barked safety checks. Rowan Hale settled into prone position, but the air carried tension. Kara Pike fumbled with her magazine, dropping it into dirt. Briggs muttered something crude, then snapped his charging handle too hard. A casing jammed in the ejection port. The line froze. Malfunction. Rowan lifted her hand, signaling cease fire. She moved low. Efficient. Lock the bolt. Sweep the stovepipe. Clear the chamber. 3 steps. Seconds flat. The rifle clicked clean. Cade's eyes caught hers across the range. No smile. No words. Just the faintest nod. The session resumed. Cadets shot quieter now. No laughter following her movements. Later, chatter spilled outside the shed. 2 recruits mocked her under their breath. One mimed tripping over laces. The other wheezed like fake exhaustion. Rowan walked past, silent. She crushed an empty bottle in her fist, tossed it into the bin. Plastic cracked loud enough to cut their act short. Afternoon briefing set the stage for urban simulation. Captain Cade unrolled a paper map of a 2-story kill house. Red arrows marked choke points, hallways stacked with plywood doors. "No chatter," he warned. "Signals only. Finish under 4 minutes, or you fail." His eyes scanned the room, pausing on Rowan. She held his gaze a moment, steady, before looking down at her notebook. Briggs smirked. Kara rolled her eyes. A couple of cadets exchanged grins, already plotting shortcuts. Smoke grenades hissed. Sirens shrieked inside the kill house. Cadets burst through doorways, rifles up, masks muffling breath. Rowan advanced in silence, scanning corners. Kara shoved forward, ignoring hand signals. She kicked open a wrong door. A buzzer blared simulated tripwire. Whole run compromised. Briggs cursed, ready to bolt deeper. Rowan slammed a hand twice against the wall. The sound cut through smoke. Lila caught the cue. Shifting formation. Rowan led them sideways, slipping through a narrow breach. They cleared the course by seconds. Timekeeper's whistle ended the run. Cade's pencil scratched a mark across his clipboard. No compliment. But the tick was there. That night, barracks dimmed under weak lamps. Rowan sat on her bunk, pulling a folded photo from her pack. Edges frayed, the image blurred with years. A man in a black jacket stood rigid beside her younger self. His eyes were sharp, jaw set. She traced the outline of his shoulder once with her thumb. Then she tucked the photo back as boots echoed in the hall. Briggs strode by. Towel slung. "Don't get comfy," he muttered. "Tomorrow, real drills." She lay back on her bunk, eyes on the ceiling, breathing even. The night drill hit harder. Cold air bit through uniforms, floodlights pulsing red across the field. Cadets scrambled to set perimeter lines, hammering stakes, clipping wire. Rowan worked fast, rope in her hands, knots sharp and precise. Briggs growled orders, his voice ragged with pride. Kara ignored signals, moving too close to the edge. A motion sensor tripped. Sirens howled. Instructors shouted. The enemy team slipped toward the perimeter under red strobes. Rowan stilled. Wind pressed grass. Pebbles shifted under unseen boots. She counted seconds between crunches. Then she spread her hand low, signaling a curved formation instead of straight defense. The squad shifted reluctantly, forming a crescent around her. Shadows broke through smoke-red team aggressors pushing hard. They collided with the arc Rowan had set. Within seconds, the breach collapsed. Exercise ended. Breathing heavy. Cadets lowered weapons. The instructor whistled the all clear. Briggs cursed under his breath but said nothing. Kara scowled, eyes darting to Rowan. Captain Cade recorded scores without comment. His face was blank, but his pen pressed deep into the paper. Morning came damp with fog. Breakfast was quiet, spoons clinking without jokes. The others kept sneaking glances at Rowan, no longer sure if she was fluke or threat. She ignored them. She retied her boots. Slow and calm, each knot sharp, deliberate, like sealing something inward. Morning drills resumed on the sand lot. Dust clung to boots, the air thick with sweat. Captain Mason Cade's whistle cut the chatter. Pair up, hand to hand. His voice was sharp, eyes scanning the rows. When he called Rowan Hale's name, Travis Briggs grinned wide. They squared off. Briggs cracked his knuckles, chest heaving with excitement. Rowan stood calm, weight low, hands loose. The whistle blew. Briggs lunged instantly, fist swinging wild. She slipped aside. He kept pressing, blows sloppy but heavy. Rowan dodged each one, steps light, head steady. Hit me. Hale, he barked. Voice raw. She didn't. She let him burn his strength, shoulders tightening with each miss. Then she moved. One pivot, arm locking around his throat. Torque, leverage, 6 seconds. Briggs crumpled into dirt, unconscious. The yard froze. Silence thick, breaths shallow. Cade stepped forward, face unreadable. Effective. From this moment, Hale is your instructor. No applause, no cheers, just the wind moving across the sand. Rowan pulled her sleeve straight and walked back to line. Later that day, a combat simulation churned the camp into chaos. Smoke grenades hissed. Orders flew sharp. Rowan's squad took position near a barricade. Kara Pike ignored her signal. Rushing ahead, she triggered a trap. Alarm screaming. Cade stormed in, furious. Hale, your squad's a mess, he roared. Kara smirked, whispering to another cadet. Told you she's nothing. Rowan stood still, hand steady. I signaled. Pike broke formation. Her words were flat, unshaken. Cade turned, demanding proof. Kara shrugged. Didn't see it. The squad chuckled, piling blame on Rowan. But a drone replay flickered above. Clear as day, Kara running past Rowan's raised hand. Cade's jaw tightened. Squad Pike. Minus points. The laughter cut short. Kara's face drained pale. Rowan didn't react. She reset her stance and moved on. By afternoon, cadets gathered for tactical drills under Colonel Everett Shaw's watch. Charts pinned on a board, flanks marked with bright chalk. Mitchell, back row. The major called. She noticed Rowan writing quickly in her notebook. You got something to add, or just doodling, all eyes turned. Rowan looked up, calm. Your left flank is exposed. Half your unit gone in an ambush. Gasps rippled. The major frowned. Explain. Rowan rose, walked forward, drew swift corrections on the board. A simple shift. Scouts here. Choke here. Cleaner. Safer. The room fell quiet. Major studied the lines, then nodded once. Noted. Sit. She glanced at Kara, whose lips tightened. And silence from the peanut gallery. Rowan returned to her seat. A subtle shift passed through the room, respect, not yet spoken, but present. Evening heat lingered as drills stretched into dusk. During one exercise, Briggs caught Rowan's collar again, shoving her back against the wall. Fabric ripped wider this time, sliding down her shoulders. The black serpent ink, coiled around a broken chevron, was revealed in full. Laughter started, then died instantly. Colonel Shaw's boots echoed as he stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the mark, face drained of color, his salute snapped high, hand rigid. "Who authorized you to wear that?" he demanded, voice taut. Rowan stood straight, the tattoo stark against her skin. "I didn't ask. It was given. 6 years under GS-12. Murmurs spread fast. Cadets stiffened. A whisper cut through. "No one carries that emblem unless they were the last." Shaw's hand trembled just slightly before he steadied it. He held the salute longer than protocol, then lowered his arm, jaw set. Kara's smirk evaporated. Her fingers twitched against her vest. Briggs backed away, eyes darting, lips pale. Later. At the gate, an unmarked SUV rolled up. Guards stepped aside without question. Out came a tall figure in a black jacket, stride confident. General Damon Reeve. His gaze locked on Rowan instantly. The colonel stood ready, saluting hard. "General," he greeted. Reeve ignored him. He walked to Rowan, placing one hand lightly on her shoulder. For a moment, her eyes softened, but her expression stayed unreadable. "You didn't have to come," she said, low. Reeve's mouth curved almost into a smile. "Yeah, I did." Cadets nearby fell silent, bottles slipping from hands. The air shifted. Whispers moved like current who she was, what it meant. Rowan climbed into the passenger seat. Engine roared. Dust lifted. The truck rolled out, leaving rows of frozen recruits staring after her. That night, Cade sat in his office, blinds shut. Shaw slid a sealed folder across the desk. Black serpent emblem stamped in wax. "Read it," Shaw ordered. "Then tell me Hale isn't 10 steps ahead of this camp." Cade opened the file, eyes scanning fast. His breath caught once. He closed the folder carefully. Outside, cadets trained late into the night. Steps sharper, movements tighter. The air in Fort Moore had changed. The sun broke pale over Fort Moore. Dew slicked the grass, the air heavy with silence. The cadets formed ranks, boots lined, eyes forward. Captain Mason Cade's tone was sharper than before, but not cruel. He called commands in clipped phrases, no wasted breath. Something in him had shifted since the night in his office. He corrected stances with gestures instead of shouts. His voice carried discipline, not mockery. Even Briggs, back on his feet, avoided testing him. The camp's rhythm had changed. During a drill, Rowan Hale moved through the yard, not as a student but as a guide. She demonstrated rifle posture, breathing patterns, subtle shifts of weight. The cadets copied her, slower at first. They watched the way she held silence, how her steps barely broke gravel. Some scribbled notes, others just stared, trying to mimic precision they didn't fully understand. Kara Pike sat in the back row. Her arms were crossed, jaw tight. The mark on Rowan's back haunted her eyes. She said nothing, but the sharp edges of her defiance dulled. That afternoon, Lila Trent found Rowan's bunk empty. On the pillow sat a folded map, its edges worn. Inside, one corner was bent neatly the same way Lila had folded hers weeks earlier. Lila smiled faintly, tucking it into her own pack. It felt like a quiet acknowledgement. No words needed. Travis Briggs turned in paperwork the next morning, his signature scrawled across a transfer request. He handed in his gloves at the supply desk, knuckles still raw from drills. No dramatic farewell. He simply walked out, eyes forward, shoulders set heavy. Rumors said he was bound for a desk post far from combat. No one challenged him. Kara lingered. She drilled, but slower. Her confidence cracked. During one weapons test, she dropped her magazine twice. Cade didn't shout. He only said, "Fix it." When evaluations came, her sponsorship disappeared. She packed her bag alone, slipping out without fanfare. The rest of the squad didn't even notice until the next morning. Rowan left the camp quietly. No ceremony. No farewell. She hoisted her battered pack onto her shoulder, adjusted the strap, and stepped into the waiting vehicle. General Damon Reeve sat behind the wheel, silent. Rowan slid in, closing the door with a soft thud. The truck rolled out through the gate, tires spitting dust. The guards stood taller as it passed, though no orders had been given. The base receded behind her, swallowed by pines. At dusk, Cade reviewed files in his office. The roster showed Hale's name marked not as cadet, but as adjunct. He closed the folder, pressing his hand against the cover. Shaw entered, placing a fresh report on his desk. No words passed between them. Both men knew the story wasn't meant to be written out. That night, the cadets trained under floodlights, their lines straighter, voices muted. Every step carried weight. They didn't need Rowan's presence to feel it. The memory was enough. In the barracks, one recruit pulled a photograph from under a bunk, Rowan beside a man in a black jacket, the edges torn. He studied it quietly, then tucked it into his pocket. Who was she really? He whispered. No answer came. Whispers grew outside the camp. Veterans heard pieces of the tale. A woman with a serpent sigil, a general who saluted without hesitation, a unit erased from records yet still breathing in fragments. The story spread not as legend, but as a reminder that strength didn't always roar. Sometimes it moved silent, reshaping everything it touched. Weeks later, a training board at Fort Moore carried new marks. Alongside endurance, weapons, and tactics, a new line was added. Silent hand signals GS-12 method. No one explained what GS-12 meant. Cadets only knew it came from her. They practiced it until it became muscle memory. Rowan's name faded from the active roll. Her presence lingered in the cadence of drills, in the pause before a whistle, in the quiet knot of laces tied just right. For those who mocked her, the shame stayed longer than punishment. For those who watched, the respect endured. She didn't need monuments. She didn't need applause. She carried her past like a scar, like ink burned into her back. The serpent wasn't a badge. It was a promise, one she kept by standing silent while the world learned to listen. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.